All right,
cut that bit.
here we are. This is the St Kilda Criterium. It's actually D grade. Val Yusutov, one of the surgeons. You guys have seen Val in a lot of my videos. He's a surgeon. This is his first ever bike race, D grade, and we thought we'd share some tips with some of the big boys of Australian cycling. We've got Paddy Shaw here and Nick, and we're just going to go through some tips and tricks. What do you reckon?
Yeah, sounds good.
You know what I'm like, mate? I just love this stuff. Like, I like putting out some simple pointers that even some seasoned riders, so to speak, your seasoned guys, your A-grade club crit pros, they don't even do it. Yeah. But the first thing I always go on about, and I harped on to you about it in January, tyre pressure. So everyone wants to run 400 psi on their tyres and go quick. The thing you got to remember is the criteriums aren't straight lines, so they're actually around corners, and you want grip. So first and foremost, you want a tyre that's got some spread, so 25 mil minimal, right? And then just run that 100 psi. Just try and stay 100 or below.
Okay. Now, why? Why 25 mil? Why not 23 mil? 23 mil will be faster, surely.
No. Well, it's all about grip factor for me. And I think if you get grip factor and you're confident in a corner and you feel that you can go through a corner quicker than what you could before, A, you're not using as much energy to re-accelerate, and you're not washing off as much speed either. So that continual stress, which would be 4 times in this circuit, you're not going to have. So that's actually a lot of saving of energy, and then you'll find at the end, when you want to put out your maximum effort, it'll probably be about 10 or 15% better.
Right.
I can corroborate, or I can agree with what Pat's saying, and support this. I know one of the team managers who worked with him at Cyclist in WA, and one of the boys, we were at a race in the Goldfields mid-year, and somehow, Pat, your name came up, and one of the little guys go, "What was it like having Pat on the team?" And he goes, "Oh, Pat was easy." He goes, "We just had to make sure we got his tyre pressure right." And Patty, you ran what, 90 most of that year, 90 to 100.
Yeah, well, interestingly, when I at Tour of King Valley this year, in the Strada Nero stage, I actually ran 70 psi in 28 mil tyres. Wow. So
and how many punches?
Oh, no punches, no punches. But I was lucky enough to win that stage, and even though that stage finished on a road surface, still was 70 psi, and in those big bags, 28 mils was heaps. So it just shows you that it's a mental thing as well. It's not going to feel quick, but it is. When you got the power meter on, you can see what's happening, and it's no harder. Yeah. I've ridden this circuit here at St Kilda, and it's intimidating at times. You think, I'm not going to get through. But you can do some pretty high speeds. Supercrit last year, I think it was 4th there. And the speeds you're doing around there is really quick. But tyre pressure is the first thing. Second thing is the overlapping of wheels, or lack thereof. So overlapping wheels is going to put you in a predicament. If you're underlapping a wheel going into a left-hand turn, then if you come out and they come back after they've done the corner, you're still going right, they're coming left, that's an easy way to crash. So if you're coming into a left-hand corner, just slip behind the wheel a little bit and to the outside of the wheel, or to the inside, but backwards, so you've got the ability to switch sides during the apex. That's going to give you the ability to again, not wash off as much speed, but also actually get a bit of a run at the person in front of you. So when you come through the corner, you'll actually get pulled by them. So as they slow down and then accelerate, you'll actually get a drag effect. And again, it's saving energy. Now, at lower speeds, these things aren't as crucial, but it is good to practice them. At high speeds, though, this can save you 50, 80, 150 watts at times. And we saw that in Port Arlington clip we did in Jan. And I haven't had a chance, thanks to everyone that watched it and commented, because I didn't think anyone would bother watching it, mate, but it's been good, the response.
Yeah, it's crazy. It was a really it was a real surprise, the reception that we had from it. And, you know, the fact that it was an hour long, almost an hour long, I thought, well, people won't get through this. But it turns out a lot of people watch these videos on their trainer. So, you know, we thank you all for your support. But, you know, here we are doing it again.
I mean, look, hell, I even watched it, and I mean, I'm certainly not an oracle of cycling knowledge at all. And you know, when we're lucky enough to have someone like Pat behind the mic imparting knowledge, it's you know, it's vital viewing for anyone, unless you're Cadell Evans, really.
Thanks, guys. The next point I want to make is the nutrition side, because I know people think, oh, we only average, you know, 30 or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. The whole point is you've got your tank of fuel and it goes down at a certain rate. And an athlete in A grade might need it to be 45 k's an hour for their tank to empty. But if you're in D grade or C grade or B grade, then you might be a little bit less. So just because you're riding in these grades doesn't mean you don't need an electrolyte or a gel or things like that. And yes, they will help your performance. And my argument is that people go, oh, I'm only doing it for fun. If you're doing it for fun, you just go down beach road. So you're putting a number on your back. You obviously want to get something out of it. So why not get the best out of yourself for that day? You're going to get good morale out of it by going better. And I think those things are really important psychologically. Like, a lot of people are using this weekend race as a de-stress or an ability to wind down and take their mind off other things that are going on. And so why not get the best performance you can? And the last one that I want to really go on before we just have a general chat is positioning in the race. Now, if you're not a fast sprinter, there's no point going into the last corner 10th wheel. You might as well have a crack 2 laps, 3 laps out and see what you can do. Learn from it, and if you didn't quite make it, go a bit later the week after, or maybe go a bit earlier and try and get a bigger gap. If you're a fast person, then don't always sit back and try and get the easy ride as well. Teach yourself to do a bit of turns on the front to build that endurance so that you can move up to C grade and B grade and still be fast at the finish. Because if you're fast, you're probably lucky. You don't have to stress so much, but it is important to keep the group together and motivated. So if you can build your endurance a bit by just doing a little bit more work on the front each week, or even try and throw down a few attacks, so you're not like the guy that's just winning the sprint or finishing top 3 in the sprint because you've been sitting on all day. It's actually beneficial to you in the long run. And also, probably the people you're racing will like you a lot more too, because then they don't have to bitch about you at the cafe. Bruce bloody sat on all day again. He does it every week, gets top 3, never moves up the grade. I've heard all these ones before. I love it, actually. I love that stuff because, you know, people always say to me too, oh, geez, the handicappers gave me a tough mark. And I go, well, I'd love to know what you're talking about, because I've only ever had scratch, you know. And like, and I probably won't race long enough to get any better marks. So, but I do love that side of it. And I always sort of say, well, why not try and do something that gets you better so you can maybe even beat Bruce? Because, so I think they're probably good tips. You know, if you're a sprinter, try and do a bit more. And if you're an attacking rider and maybe you attacked too much too early in a race, maybe be a bit more patient and just do one real big one week and just surprise yourself. You might be very surprised at what you can do.
So what do you think if Val, you know, he's sitting in the bunch here, you know, he's quite a way back, I suppose. What if he went to the front, you know, he doesn't have any teammates, and he goes to the front and does 3 laps on the front? Is that a smart idea? What is that?
Well, I mean, look, in D grade, no one has teammates to begin with, so I don't, you know, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. But it's a race, like Pat said. If you know you're there for a result, otherwise you would just stick on the beach road. So always thinking, what does 3 laps on the front accomplish for me in terms of winning this bike race?
Yeah.
I'm going to critique Val, right? We're going to get tough on Val, right? Do you mind?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
This is
Val,
Val 101.
Sorry, Val, we love you.
Val's
All right.
a surgeon,
So,
though.
yep.
Just make sure he just keeps using my products, Val. I love you.
No, so Val, well, the easiest thing is he's got the camera. So Val, first thing you're doing is you're not sitting close enough to the wheel. Now that generally tells me that that's because you don't train in a bunch and you don't have a lot of experience in a bunch. This is your first race, so it's a bit rough that we're doing it. So what I would do is actually, that would be the first thing that I would try and improve, would be your confidence of sitting near the wheel. Now, the easiest thing to do on this circuit is probably just sit to the right-hand side of the wheel and try and separate yourself maybe by 10 centimetres to the right of the rider and maybe 3 centimetres behind their derailleur. So still in line with their tyre, so you're getting a bit of a sit or draft, so to speak. But it will make your race so much easier. Vel's doing so much extra work here, man. Like, he is just, basically what he's doing is a time trial. He's doing a time trial with a few people coming along.
But he's strong, though.
Oh, you can tell that he's probably, the thing with a rider that does this is they're probably actually a C-grade level rider already.
Yeah.
But these mistakes that he's making here, and he also doesn't want to go up where he is. So these riders he's sitting around aren't as strong as Val. But if he got up with the riders that are as strong as him, he'd probably start rolling turns as well and get in the echelon, so to speak, which would also build his confidence. So sitting at the back, I think his mentality here is, I don't want to intrude on other people's race. This is my first race. I don't know what I'm doing. It's actually the worst thing he can do, because next week he does the same thing. Yeah. And then, so the best thing to do is get involved, talk to people, and in D grade, generally they do have a bit of a chat. So just say, "Am I doing the right things, guys?" Yeah. Or is there something, I'm doing the right thing? And they'll actually probably feel good about being able to give you some advice too. Yeah. Everyone's a pro. Yeah. Everyone. Yeah. So when they can give you some advice, it's really quite uplifting for them. And then next week, you're going to know people and feel better about it. But already you can see the speed's pretty high, even for D grade. But the next thing I'd say for Val is, firstly, get off the back, and secondly, sit near the wheel. Because he's just doing a team's time trial, well, individual time trial the whole time.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I think Pat makes a really good point about how Val is a lot stronger than his positioning and his eventual race result, reflected, which, from my experience, just, I spent quite a bit of time on Zwift over the winter, know some of the Aussie guys on there, and there is a guy who was on Zwift who has an FTP that is well above a D grader who was in this race, and he did not win it. And he didn't win it because he made the mistakes that Pat pointed out. I've got no doubt his tyre pressure wasn't optimised. He corners like the QE2. I'm certain he didn't sit the wheel properly, because I tell you what, if we put all these D grade boys on an ergo trainer, this bloke would have blown them away. But the problem is that, Pat, you get these guys who have got the legs and they get bumped up to C grade, and I go, well, how did you get to C grade? You can't win in D grade. Like, they miss those vital skills on how to actually win a bike race.
Yeah. I'm sorry, mate, I've got to disagree with you. I actually think that you can strangle people by holding them down a grade. And I'll explain that. It's mainly with younger talent. I find that it's difficult. If you're a beginner cyclist and you race in a beginner grade, you'll pick up all the mistakes. And Val's turning up. I'm Val. I've turned up to this race and I'm having a look around. This must be what you do. These people that are at the back with Val, they're back there for a reason. It's the same as, I don't like junior cyclists going out with uneducated or inexperienced bunches and riding, because they learn the mistakes. They learn the mistakes like not giving room when they get out of the seat, throwing back the bike, all that. It's a learning tool. Monkey see, monkey do. And always what happens traditionally in cycling, what you find is you'll go to ride with a group, and I know we're not talking about racing here, because I think that the first step is you go out with a bunch and then they get you to go to the cycling club. So you're in the bunch, and the person that sort of speaks the loudest or stands up the most, he or she, they know it. So then you're like, why are you doing this? John told me. And that might be something like, and I get in the bike shop all the time, you get people that hear advice that's not right. Sit on 130 cadence. The higher the cadence, the better. That's what Lance did. Spin to win, all this. It's like, you can only actually do that on the gear that you can do at like 25k an hour. If you want to go faster, you've got to go that 80 or 90 cadence and those types of things. So always be a bit of aware of who's giving you the advice.
This whole spin to win thing cracks me a little bit. I think it's.
I love it because Joe Cooper, when he does it with his Kiwi accent, says spin to win. It's really cool.
Spinning to win is relevant on a climb. That's the only place it's really relevant. And I think keeping a high cadence on a race like the Melbourne and Warney, where trying not to push too big a gear too often is a good idea. But in a crit race, bridging a gap, you're not going to bridge a gap unless you chuck it in the big chain ring and go across.
No, you're right. You're right. You got to, at some point, you're not going to be doing 120 cadence, and at some point, it's going to friggin' hurt a lot. Yeah. That's the fact. But spinning to win can actually mean different things. So obviously, on a climb, high cadence is good, but also a high cadence on the flat that might be 90. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be 120. It doesn't have to be 100. I think in the Warney, I don't know what, I think I averaged like 90 cadence for the Warney. That's very high.
Yeah, I was in the 90s, but I tell you what, cadence is not one of the metrics on my main screen for my Garmin.
No.
It is a useless metric. I don't use it. Well, for racing, that is.
Yeah. It's still an important factor, but to look it down and see your cadence is irrelevant. An elite cyclist will know that it's just second nature.
Sensation,
you don't spin. You don't do 60 cadence. You know what it is. You don't need that metric on your Garmin.
With all that said, I remember last year when from Jake Kaufman when he bridged over to our break. He made a little quip. Well, that quote was that he dropped his cadence just a bit so that he could knock his heart rate down, but keep his power up when he was spent that hour or so getting across. So that was, that is probably one of the rarer instances where being conscious of your cadence in a race can be beneficial, because he just didn't want to spike his heart rate for that long, getting across the move and not be totally cooked.
Different races as well. Yeah. So flat Criterium free flowing like this, lower cadence fine. Port Arlington type circuit like we filmed in January, definitely not fine. Yeah. High cadence required, and that's for perseverance, like to preserve those legs for when the real action's going to come. This St Kilda circuit, I've had circumstances on this circuit where I felt like I couldn't even get out of the seat if I tried, and then gone into the sprint, and last year ran fourth, and I felt like I'm done here. But I was just like, because the speed's so high, you're not going to feel super sensations. You're not going to feel like 100 men strong. Yeah. It's going to feel hard.
Yeah. I find it, just looking at the footage here, I find it interesting, Val's, I've noticed throughout this video, he drops the wheel a lot and then comes back onto the wheel.
It's a fear factor. It's a being out of your comfort zone, and that's a normal thing, and I think his confidence will obviously build. But they better hope it doesn't, because he'll be right up the front real quick. You can tell how strong he is. He's leaving 10, 15 metre gaps a lot and then accelerating. And probably more than anything, it's because of his inability to read the race. He doesn't actually know what's going to happen next. And that's the difficult thing in lower grades. But also, don't worry, it's prevalent in the higher grades too. There's guys that don't have a clue what's going to happen next. They think they do, they haven't got a clue. But for Val and other D grades, I think what you've got to think about is not what's happening where you are, what's happening up the front. So as soon as you see a rider attack, you're going to know that the bunch is going to string out. Start moving up the outside of 2 or 3 riders, and then back it off and let them repass you and just slide in. Your effort rate will be 25-30% less, and you'll actually then, because what will happen is they'll accelerate, chase that person, and in lower grades, generally they don't counter-attack, they go across the road. As soon as that happens, that's when you use your momentum, move up the group, and then slide in those front 5-10 wheels, and then try and hold that position. That position, you'll see everything that's going to happen, you know who's going off the front, and you'll learn more too. So you start to learn a bit of a catalogue, I call it, of riders that you're racing with. Val's going to stay in this grade for a few weeks, maybe a few months. Yeah. So if he learns about the riders he's racing against, he's going to be able to beat them a lot easier than not knowing anything about them.
Yeah. And like Shawry said, when they'll ease up and go across the road, you can slide in, or, if you're a rider that's like myself, you hit them. That's when you go. But Pat alluded to as well, you've got to pick your time. Like, you don't, if they do that and that's in the first 20 minutes, chances are you're not gonna make it stick. If that's 35 minutes into the race, hit them, give them beans, and I tell you, and make that attack. Like, don't do it half-assed. Don't look behind. Hit it. Hopefully, maybe someone comes with you, maybe one or two people, or if not, give it a rip and try and go it solo. You might hold it, and if you don't, you're going to come back stronger next week.
Yeah.
I think the big thing is, though, just try and move up into those front 10, 15 wheels so you see what's happening.
Yeah.
You don't learn a lot from back here, but what we do see is the group spreading out and then bunching back up.
Yeah.
But you're not learning a lot from back here. And that's the big thing, and that's why I always promote it in my local club as well. Even it might be a scratch race, and instead of racing it tactically, I might send some guys off the front. I'll go to the back and say to them, "You guys attack. I'll block. Get you off the front." And then I talk to the guys in the back and say, "All right, tempo. These guys can't last out there," and teach everyone some things along the way. But you're not learning anything at the back, and you're certainly not learning anything by not rolling through. And you'll actually find that rolling through, rather than those accelerations, then stop dead, you'll actually control your sensations better. You'll learn better about the reaction speed you need. So when you see someone go into attack, you'll know whether you've got like that couple of seconds to get on them, or whether they're actually really quick and you've either got to get on them straight away or not worry. Yeah. And look, there's some people in the peloton that I won't even try and follow, because it's just a waste of time. Yeah. Like back years ago, Luke Davison, he was one, for example. Like, his acceleration was so great that as soon as he went out, if you weren't already up at his crank before he went, you need to preempt his going before he thought he was going.
Is he that good?
He just burn you too. Like, he's the type of guy, just keep going, didn't care. And it's like, well, once he's 2 meters in front of you, and then you keep going, he keeps going for ages, you're just burning so many matches. So I'd just let other people chase him, and then you'd be like, well, I'm not going to worry about 3 people now, rather than...
So Luke's the guy working for Ride Me.
Yeah.
And he's a really nice guy.
He's an ex-world champion on the track.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, superb, talented rider. There's no doubt about that. Someone asked, actually, about... Luke Durbridge in the national championship that he won. They asked me, like, what did he say to you? Because I started sitting on. Now, the year that I made the breakaway and he won, I must admit I was not ready and in the shape to do what was required. But he really, he gave up. And Brad McGee, I think it was at the time, that was on the side of the road, he said, one more time, Luke. And as soon as he said, I thought, you bastard. Like, because I knew that next one was going to get me, and it did. But Luke had, like, stopped, and he was ready to ride it together, I believe, to the finish. And it would have been Badger, which is Bernard Sulzberger, myself and Luke, at least fight out the last laps. And I think if I had got another lap, might have made it. Yeah. But I just thought at that time, great de-essing, because it might even be Matt Wilson or Brad McGee.
In front of you.
Yeah, well, he didn't yell it. He just said, one more. And I knew what it meant. And I knew what it meant, all right, because I went out the arse.
Were you there that year?
No.
I was there. I raced it, and I was already shelled by that point. And I saw them go that one more lap, and then I saw Paddy blow and was lying down in the back of the Praties truck, and I swear to God, I thought they were going to stretcher him out of there. I've very rarely have I seen a rider go as deep as you went that day, mate.
Yeah, I actually sat up and waited for the group to come, and then tried to chase Luke back.
Yeah.
But yeah, to no avail. Fantastic athlete. And then I think we met the year after that in the Port Arlington Crit, and he won. But again, he was just unbelievable. I was never going to beat him there either.
What do you think the ceiling is for Luke? Do you think one day classics? He's turned into a terrific domestique in the Grand Tours. Can he pull a Matt Hayman and take one of those monuments?
Oh, certainly. He's. I think it's hard for viewers at home to think that it's possible, because you don't see a lot of other things that are going on. But Luke Durbridge's ceiling point, I don't think he has one.
Really?
Yeah, I think, you know what, more than anything, it's hard not to like him, because I really think the thing that impresses me about Luke is that he every year that I see him, he come up, he'll look me in the eye, shake my hand, and say, "How you going?" You know what I mean? And there is guys over the years, there ebbs and flows. Some years they'll say hi to you, other years they're just a little bit too good for it, you know?
Yeah, too good
I always
for
friggin' hated like that. Like, I always loved that about Phil Anderson.
Yep.
Phil Anderson's a guy that I met when I was an under 15 at a state championship. He was there viewing and spoke to me like, and I knew who he was. But if you didn't know who he was, you'd think he was just another spectator. Unbelievable. Like, and Shane Kelly's another person. Achieved so many great things, you know, and Kells will say hi to you and talk to you just like he's another bloke, you know, and they're the type of people that I think are like great champions.
Yep.
Not these ones that think like, you know, I'm bigger than you and I don't need to spend the time to say hi or whatever. And that's, you know, it's each person's decision at the time, but I think like they're just really two great examples.
Yeah.
And I think you can learn a lot from that.
Yeah.
And I think those types of people, I think those type, I think those type of people have learnt what happiness in life is. It's not about big noting yourself. It's about accepting you were pretty friggin' awesome because they were.
Yeah.
But also accepting that, you know, don't sit and think about yourself all the time because you'll miss out on a lot of other shit that's going on.
Yeah.
What's that? You know, you don't need to blow your other people's candles out to make yours burn brighter, sort of thing. You don't need to drag others down to build yourself up.
I've said it a few times, and I like to say, when you can sit back, and even if it's someone you don't like and they ride well or achieve something, and you can congratulate them, that says a lot about who you are and a lot about the substance of your person. Yeah. And I actually get a lot of. That's where I got a lot of joy out of team racing. Yeah. Going up to your mate and going, you know, you played a part in their victory, but they won, and you know that in the end they had to ride spectacular to win, and just love it. And just go like, even in like the warning, for example, when you guys went up the road, I'm like, well, good on them. If they can ride 280k swapping off, what a hellhole of an experience. Yeah. If they can do it, good on them. Yeah. And Nathan Elliott won, and I'm stoked for him, but I didn't want to do it that way. Yeah. So what I do is accept that if they do win, good on them because I wasn't willing. But if I win from where I am, I know that I'll need to ride a superb ride as well. Yeah. So yeah, you just accept other people's accomplishments as well, and it'll put you in a better place.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, Matt Heyman, you know, Paris-Roubaix winner, walks up to me at the Tour de France and goes, "Oh, Maven, I feel like I know you." And this is Matt Heyman, you know, and I just looked at him and I thought, you're a professional cyclist. You don't have to be like this to me, but you're being just a normal dude. Yeah. You know?
Renowned, he's renowned, though, for that. Yeah. He's renowned for being that steady ship. And I think that's why he's such an important role at Orica. And it's just great to see him get that big victory because it's almost like God sort of thought, you know, for everything you've done for others, here you go, have one yourself. Yeah. And I was watching him when he was running. He had boomed there. I thought, don't you friggin' sell out. Don't you sell out. This is your chance, Matty Heyman. This is your chance. And then when he won, you know, like...
So you thought there could have been a joke?
No. What I meant is, like, he might have said, stuff this, second in Paris-Roubaix at my time of my career. And, you know, this could be the end of, you know, going towards the end of my career. I might just accept second. Second's enough for me. Like we spoke about 10th, 14th in that break. In the warning. And I thought, don't you bloody sell out. Don't let Boonen have it. Don't accept that just because he's done it before, he can do it again. You can do it. You are showing. And, I think that we should really, in Cycling Australia, do some more cuts of his victory and use it as inspiration to send out to young kids that are in school and sort of say, you know, this is where an underdog achieved because he believed. Yeah. Awesome. Oh, I friggin' loved it. I loved it. I didn't sleep 4 or 5 hours up. I was sitting there just... I just love that shit. It's awesome.
We should have it on repeat for the Maven intro, I think.
Just
for every vlog.
Just for a year.
Just for a few.
Well, I mean, that backstage pass will probably still be one of the most epic, and they've had some pretty damn good ones with Chavez for this year already, but just some amazing scenes, but you know, of how much it meant to him, and it's so well deserved.
Yeah.
But Pat, with everything that you've just been saying, like, it has me wondering who's taking over the captaincy at Avanti, mate. You're going to leave a pretty big hole.
No, I don't think so, because there's a culture that's been in the making since 2011, I think, that I tried to install in the guys, and I think they'll be more than fine. You know, they went to Japan and dominated. They've gone other races I haven't done. And probably in the last few years it's been less vocal from me anyway. I like to just make sure that things are good off the bike as well as on the bike. And look, those guys have got to learn to believe in each other and trust each other, and I think they're already at that level. Who they'll invite into that culture next year will be interesting, and hopefully they'll fit right in. I think that it's an unbelievable team to have had a part with, and like I've said heaps, if it wasn't for Andrew, Chrissy Johnson and Steve Price to have me on board their ship, so to speak, I wouldn't have the passion and love for the sport that I have today. And I definitely wouldn't have met some of Australia's finest future athletes.
Interesting. So we put a question out to a few of the crew on Instagram for questions for this for the D-grade cycling tips or beginner cycling tips. And one of them was Josh Watson says, when are you putting the GoPros on Shawry again? When should we
He's
have...
a bit of a fan, Josh. G'day, Josh. Yeah, I appreciate his stuff.
We can strap him to Shawry's lawnmower and while
now
he's doing the washing.
Yeah. Well, now that Shawry's retired, we might have to sort of get Nick to do a few more.
Do you know what? Actually, just on that,
Yeah.
him retiring is the worst news for me, because Pat's in Ballarat, just up the road. My club have tri-series with Ballarat, and I will just remember it was a couple of years ago out at the Ballarat round. Was I there? I can't remember whether... No, I was there because I saw Pat do it. I couldn't remember if it was passed on to me, but Pat won, as you would expect, and was given the prize money. Hands it straight to the ladies who had put on an amazing afternoon tea spread and said, "This is for you girls for putting on, such an amazing post-race." Like, didn't even look how much was in the envelope, to wonder how much. Just straight away, handed it straight to him. So I thought, what a measure of a man. Unfortunately, it means now that he's retired, I'm going to be racing against him on the club in the club circuit a bit more often as well. So he's going to be tearing my legs off there, which I'm a little bit unhappy about.
Don't let people know I've got a nice side, Nick. I'm meant to be this hardened, bugger of a bloke. No, the one thing I always have done and always will do is appreciate volunteers, sponsors, but especially volunteers. Now, when I lived in Italy and raced in Italy, all we did for our team was volunteers all the time. And even basically some of the riders that rode with me, they weren't great riders. But I used to, if I won prize money, I used to just shout pizzas, or we'd go to the bar and we'd have a drink or a coffee or whatever. And I found that it's just built such relations, and for me, Neil Walker is that for Avanti ISOA. Just a grinder, gets the job done, and I think he's an integral part of the glue that keeps it a unit.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that people always talk about riders in the team or the directors, but staff are such an integral part. Yeah. And I've always believed that, and I've always made sure that staff have felt appreciated for what they've done for the team. And again, it's part of a culture, and it's important to that everyone feels like they're a part. And because when they do feel like a part, you do race better too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. No, it's a basic, like people who are in the background doing amazing things should be recognised for what they're doing. So it's good that you pick that up, but a lot of people don't. But look, one thing I will say is that there's a few questions that have come through on Instagram, and they've said the resounding thing is for juniors getting into cycling. A lot of the young crew don't have a lot of money, or their parents are going to have to chip in or whatever. How do they get into cycling? What's a great little thing that they can do for a bike, and expenses for bits and pieces for new cyclists, young cyclists getting into it?
This is where I've been, and I've been saying this for years, that track cycling can die, but the velodromes can't. You can take a mountain bike, 16-inch BMX, 12-inch BMX. I do it with Carter, my son. Take him down the velodrome and ride laps of the velodrome. They learn the technical skills. They learn what pedaling is, the cadence, all that. They feel a headwind, crosswind, tailwind, those things. And then that catches the bug. I think track cycling is an integral part to doing, to competing in cycling. And I think it's a cheap way. Like, everyone has generally got a bike. You know, it might not be the best bike on the market, but you got a bike, you can ride around a velodrome. The other thing is like some clubs will do criteriums that allow young juniors to ride any bike as well, and I think that's good too. Obviously, you need a license for that. But the big one is the schools championships that Cycling Victoria do in particular, and that allows a novice grade. So if you've never raced before, don't have a license, you can still go and race those as your school, as a member of your school. So you go to your regional race, you qualify for states if you're good enough, and yeah, go from there. But I've always seen those school sports as a great one. Ballarat used to do one that was a team's time trial actually. That used to be good too. But yeah, so hit up Cycle Sport Victoria, the schools championships. Look up for when your region's on. Ballarat's is Vic Park, I know that, and it's a great ran event. A lot of people participate. Hopefully a lot more after I do a bit more of a drive to get some more kids involved in cycling in Ballarat.
Yeah, so track cycling is critical in your mind too, and a lot of other people I talk to, that track cycling is critical. You look at Stuart O'Grady, you know, amazing cyclist. He was from the track. A lot of other great riders are from the track. Do you both think it's a critical part of junior development?
Well, I agree with Pat. You know, even though I didn't come up through, I didn't cycle as a junior or anything like that. I came to it very late. I have done track. We're lucky to have a track in Geelong, and to see all the junior burgers who get out there, it's terrific. It teaches a lot of skills. Like Pat alluded to, but then when you're a junior, it's about picking your lines in a sprint. There's quite a few juniors, so navigating your way through a bunch in a sprint on a fixed gear bike, that takes for a kid, that's a quite a large degree of coordination. And once you start getting that down, Pat, it becomes a lot easier going to a geared bike, and you've already got those skills, and probably appreciating that cycling, you're going to touch another rider with it, and you don't need to overreact, which I think guys who come to the sport a bit late can overreact. There's bumping, you can lean up against other guys through a corner, stuff like that. You learn that as a kid. You're a lot safer on the bike in that instance, because all of a sudden, the bunch can be a lot smaller and you're losing your mind.
Yeah, that's such a critical point that you say, overreacting to what's perceived as an emergency situation. Yep. Like, you can touch handlebars or lean against someone, it's okay.
Oh,
just
absolutely.
Just relax.
Yeah, it's difficult to teach that. That's something you've got to really have the desire to learn. And I can't thank, and at the time I hated every minute of it. I can't thank Shane Kelly, Todd Wilsh, Mark French, Joby Dacre, these big units that used to race the Kierans and sprints on the track, and I used to get there at what was Vodafone Arena at the time and race them and try and body up it, quite hilarious when I think about it, because I was not a big kid, but that definitely put me in a position where then I would go to international races and seasoned pros would try and dolly you up, and you'd end up matching them, or sometimes even getting them stuck in a place where they were like, whoa, and unexpected too. It definitely helped me along the way, and it's definitely allowed me to enjoy cycling a lot more. I actually think it's fantastic when you're shoulder on shoulder going through a corner and two bike riders that are really good at handling their bike, and they're loving it. They're banging together, loving it, thinking, I'm getting as much as I'm giving here. Who's going to win this battle? It's pretty cool sometimes. I actually almost wouldn't mind if there was some discipline of cycling that allowed just that. Yeah. We sort of rated it, gave it a scorecard. But yeah, like doing the Kierans and things against those guys, and I would have been, 55, 60 kilo, and they were 80 plus to 100. But I was never intimidated. I was taught never to be intimidated. Probably like a kid that, a young kid that has no fear. Pretty stupid now that I look back, because I could have probably got pretty hurt.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great, talking about these tracks, there's all these great tracks around Melbourne. Could we get some little get a few people on their road bikes and whatnot and have some category races? And
I'm sure Blackburn or Carnegie Velodrome, both, or one or the two, do that sort of thing. I know Brunswick Cycling Club's really huge in their track cycling, and they've always have been. I remember doing races.
What's his name? Dave, the guy that's a pink.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm having a mind blank.
Pink Brunswick. Yep.
Yeah, but we've got to interview that guy.
He's volunteer of the
But
year.
it's not only
He's volunteer of the
but it's
world.
not only him at that club too. I think they've got a lot of people that are there as well.
Ken McFarlane.
He's definitely the brightest.
Yeah.
And it's those clubs. I think they have also like road bikes. You can go down there and just Carnegie, definitely. It's a flat velodrome. You can go down there, ride your road bike around, and it's a beautiful track, beautiful setup they got there.
Yeah.
So we're sort of digressing a little bit from the actual race here, but that's all right. Do we think that Melbourne has the best cycling scene in Australia? I mean, where are other great places to ride?
Queensland's got some pretty good ones. Brisbane's got a pretty good crit scene, and they love it. They just love it. They've
got some hitters up there too,
and they love Instagramming it. And like it's like, when I was around in Melbourne, 10 years ago, the big thing was to either win the Hell Ride or win the Glenvale or Sandown, and then you had the St Kilda crits, which are now obviously huge, but literally to win those types of the Hell Ride or the races, right?
Cycling Victoria,
Yeah.
not like
No,
that.
I know.
And it's incident. I'll say, Cycling Victoria do an amazing job,
Yeah, they're terrific.
and massive love to Cycling
I don't
Victoria.
like the Hell Ride now either.
Yeah,
I've never done it.
Yeah.
But it just was something that was part of the culture back then, 10 years ago. It was part of the culture in Melbourne. You do the Hell Ride, and or you try and do the crits on the Tuesday night and Sunday.
Yeah.
And if you could win one of them, you were basically favourite for the next top event, because that's how hard it was. Like, I think Will Walker, and in his prime, because he was a fantastic bike rider, and in his prime, he used to say that it's the hardest thing to win, Melbourne Crit. And I never understood that until one year I won the series, the Carnegie Cycling Club series. And in that year, I think I won one crit, but I ran second or third like 15 times. They're extremely hard to win, but the scene there's strong.
Yeah.
Now you got Hawthorn at the Teardrop as well.
That's a great race.
Yeah, and it's great. It's great that those clubs, but all those clubs survive off volunteers.
Yeah.
They're the backbone.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, Geelong, we're the same. We've got a terrific race director. We do road races in the summer, which can seem almost novel in Australia. And we're lucky enough to have a crit track where we've got where the juniors can come on their road bikes, and we have training every Tuesday. And the juniors, we need another coach.
Yeah.
We've got so many juniors. We need, like, my time at the top of A grade at that club is very limited with the juniors that we've got coming through. Yeah, they're going to be ripping my legs off, and I hope they do.
And there needs to be more of that. There needs to be more focus on the juniors.
Yeah.
But look, it's been a great chat. I know we sort of started off as a cycling tips thing, but we digress. But there's so much to talk about with people who are so passionate about cycling, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. I think we'll do many more of these because I enjoy talking about cycling and having beers with these boys.
Yeah.
So until next time, if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below, and we'll see you then.